Can we resume our seats? Let's resume our seats, please. All right, now that we've all escaped from COVID shackles, after having stretched and taken sobolo, for some reason the sobolo didn't have sugar, and I was told that it is good for COVID. I love sobolo, but Charlie, there should have been small sugar inside. But maybe because the Asuchare sugar factory has collapsed, and the Commander sugar factory is struggling, maybe that's why. That explains. Anyway, you're welcome back. You're welcome back. So we're going to get to the debate now, the reason we are here. I don't want to call it a debate. If you do that, it may be sounding scary. So let's just say the exchange of ideas. And let me say that we have thousands of people on our various platforms. Joy News is broadcasting on their Facebook, which makes it easy for people to see what they are broadcasting and for us to determine how many people are watching. Citi News is broadcasting also on Facebook, and the video, whatever we are doing here, is also broadcasting there. There are other media houses that are capturing this to be playing back on the news later in the evening. There are newspapers that will be publishing this tomorrow. So everything we say here would be important. And then we are over 50 people here. That's significant to defeat someone in an election. So there are 50 thumbs plus here, you know. And our very good friend who is a deputy minister and member of parliament for Wale Wale, who lost his parliamentary primaries, will tell you how significant thumbs are. I'm sorry for telling the people that you lost them. I am sorry. So I'm going to invite now the Honorable Deputy Agric Minister, Honorable Sagre Bambangi. Please take the seat. Take the blue corner for me. Yes, yeah, blue corner. Or you prefer this corner? Blue corner is fine. Okay, you want blue corner. So then in the green corner then, Mr. Harry Yamson, except that is not, what? Honorable Bambangi, what is happening? What seems to be the problem? You seem to be changing seats. We are not sure what's happening. Or you want to put some magic here for NDC before you go and take your own seat? It's still a lot. Okay. Thank you so much. So he's NPP MP for Dr. Baumia's hometown, Wale Wale. Honorable Dr. Sagre Bambangi. Okay, not doctor. Honorable. Oh, you're a doctor? Yes, you're a doctor. Book doctor. Thank you. Mr. Harry Yamson speaks for the NDC, one of the spokespersons on agriculture. Please, you may now take the green corner. Okay. No, the middle one. Yes. Thank you. So, okay. I would take this seat and I would engage the two of them in a conversation, after which I would invite Patrick Stevenson. Patrick Stevenson is a researcher par excellence, and he possibly will help us do some fact-checking as well, while possibly correcting one or two things and adding one or two things while the conversation goes on. I'll send the microphone around so you can ask questions later on. But for now, I have the privilege of asking the questions first, and I'll try to do that and see if it will end well. So I think there's a microphone at the other side, isn't there? Yes, so you can just take it and share. Or officials, can we get an extra microphone? I'll be happy if you can. Just one, okay. Honorable, is there one by your side? Fantastic. So let's start first with the defense team. You are in government. So I'll give you just 10 minutes. Tell us the major things you've done in the agriculture sector, and then specifically for peasant farmers. And then let's hear from the NDC as well, which is on the attack. Thank you. So you have just 10 minutes. Or you have 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Hello?
I have no biases. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opportunity this morning to have this interaction with you. I'm so grateful to the previous speakers with their kind words, except that some of them were intimidating and blackmailing. They said, what you will say today will determine whether we will vote for you or not. But the point I want to make is that this is a manifesto, and we have processes that we go through to arrive at the manifesto. So what I'm going to tell you cannot be outside the manifesto of the New Patriotic Party. And I'm so disheartened by the fact that Umar Sanders is giving me only 10 minutes. Because for agriculture, if you were to take a gallon of ink to write about the successes and the performance of agriculture under the New Patriotic Party and what we hold in stock to do, I am sure the gallon of ink would drain before you finish writing about our agriculture. So first of all, I would like to go briefly through what we promised to do in 2016 because it is time to account. And I would like to take us through the fact that we said we were ensuring that farm inputs are made available in farming communities. And we've done this to a very large extent. And I want you people to appreciate something, that when we came to power, the subsidy on seed and fertilizer was between 20 and 32%. And we managed, against all odds, to increase this subsidy to 50%. And if you want to appreciate it pragmatically, you look at the price of subsidized fertilizer for 2016. As of 2016, the price for subsidized fertilizer, NPK, 50 kilograms was 85 Ghana cedis. Subsidized fertilizer. And with our subsidy from 2017 to 2020, as we sit now, the price for subsidized fertilizer, NPK, 50 kilograms, is 84 Ghana cedis. With all the 10% and above inflation we've been battling with since 2017. So you can imagine. And we also promise to revive the Grains and Legumes Development Board and make sure that they play their critical role of producing foundation seed for farmers. We also promise to support CSIR and some universities to produce foundation seeds. And we've been able to do that. So for now, certified seed production as a result of the increase in foundation seed production has increased from 2016 level of 24 metric tons to 473.5 metric tons in 2019. That is foundation seed rather. Then certified seed has increased from 4,000 metric tons in 2016 to 18,500 metric tons in 2019. So this is a very gigantic leap. We have also been able to, we also promised to promote cattle ranching. And we have started with Wawasi in the Afram Plains and Juapon in the Accra Plains. We also promise to provide patrol boats to police foreign fishing vessels, and we've been able to do that. So the Marine unit has now got 2 boats, and they are working, and the Navy have also been patrolling our waters to ensure that we don't have the illegal kind of fishing. We promise to place fisherfolk directly in charge of subsidized inputs at the local outlets, and we've been able to do that. And the premix distribution committees are at the landing beaches, and they are working and doing a wonderful job. We promise to encourage poultry meat processing, and we are also in the process of doing that. We have also embarked on the rearing for food and jobs. We've distributed a number of cockerels and some chickens to farmers, and they are raising them. We launched the rearing for food and jobs last year in Wa. We also promised to support selected products with storage, transportation, marketing, and distribution. And we are doing that with the one district, one warehouse. And ladies and gentlemen, I came from my constituency yesterday, and before I went to the constituency, I had to go to Bole, I had to go to Salaga, I had to go to Gambaga, and then back to my constituency. All these districts have 1,000 metric tons warehouses completed. It is just the Salaga one that needed some finishing touches, so we couldn't take over. But the other 3 warehouses we have taken over, and they will be ready for usage. About 102 warehouses are almost completed, and we will eventually be addressing all these post-harvest challenges. Then we also promise to improve fertilizer distribution, and we've been able to do that because we've been able to get all kinds of agents. We've encouraged the distributors to get all kinds of agents in a lot of remote areas to at least support the distribution of fertilizer, so that people are not able, or people are not compelled to travel far distances to look for the subsidized fertilizer. We also promise to have discussions with Burkina Faso to look at the problem of perennial flooding in the northern part of Ghana, and we've been able to do that. And we've also instituted a method of desilting some of the tributaries of the White and Black Volta. We have also commenced the construction work on the Polygo multipurpose dam, so that when it is completed, possibly in 3 or 4 years' time, we'll be able to harvest the water there, so that it doesn't cause the kind of havoc that we have been experiencing. And in addition, we'll be able to also use it to irrigate 24,000 hectares of farmland. And this will be a game changer in our agriculture, because currently, public irrigation land in Ghana stands around 13,000 hectares. And this targets 24,000 hectares. So it means that we are almost tripling the size of irrigated land in Ghana with this ambition. We also promise to ensure that cocoa farmers receive increased producer prices plus bonuses to encourage high production volumes. and also for farmers to enjoy stable cocoa prices. And we are doing that with the income differential, with our negotiation and partnership with Cote d'Ivoire. Uma Sanda, am I going to have an opportunity to talk about what we are doing in 2021?
Yes, you'll be getting, and indeed, I don't know why you decided to stop at this time, but you just clicked 10. You've just done 10 minutes.
No. I thought you said what we've been able to do
yes, so this
far.
is what you have been able to do. Now we will go into the manifesto proper. So this is the foundation.
So this is the foundation.
You have laid
but
it.
it's a lot.
I know.
I thought you could give me 30 minutes for that.
Don't worry. Bring money. We'll give you more platform on Citi FM. But thank you. I think 10 minutes foundation is good.
Okay.
Let's hear the NDC's foundation. You've been in power for 8 years, at least the past 8 years. Actually, you've been in power forever in this country, longest after any other. What is the foundation that you've laid?
Well, thank you very much. I want to talk to you a little bit about. Yes, I want to speak a little bit about.
Can we hear you?
You can hear me. All right. All right. Well, no, I think this is fine. I actually want to speak more about the foundations that have gone into the design of the agric Manifesto, which we are going to discuss today. Because 2009 to 2016 has come and it has passed. And we've had 2017 to 2020. So I'm sure something has been built on something. But the most important thing is how we are going to move forward. And those are the foundations that I want to discuss. And please, if you could show the slide, the graph that I've given you. In all the conversations that I've had today, there is a certain level of distress that comes through. And it has to do with the issue of the unproductivity that is associated with being a peasant farmer. If you look at this slide, it tracks the history of value addition in our agriculture. Umaru said something very early in today's program. He said we remain a rain-fed agricultural economy. So that structure has not changed. We also remain a smallholder, farmer-dominated agricultural economy. That has not changed. And yet, if you look at this graph, somewhere around the 70s, value addition in agriculture touched 60%, and today it is around 18.5%. Now, if the demand to add value to what you produce collapses from 60 to 18%, every bank finds you risky. They will not lend you money. No insurer will touch you. Your prices will be high. No labor will want to work for you because you will not be profitable. So in the thinking that has gone into the NDC manifesto, one of the most important blocks is how to turn this value addition graph back up, and we have targeted 40% value addition. If we can double value addition, you will run out of supply, and the market will beg you to tell them the price that you will sell at. That is foundation number one. The second thing that I want to touch on as one of our foundation pieces is a recognition that the Ghanaian consumer has changed. Recently, I was in a discussion with Honorable's colleague, Deputy Minister. And we talked about value addition in rice, because it's such a big area. And I think even today, a lot of you are doing irrigation-driven agriculture. Interestingly, we couldn't come up with local rice brands. Or shall I say, the colleague minister could not name local rice brands. And I'm sure there are many of them. But the consumer is not demanding the produce that the smallholder farmer brings to the market. And I've already talked about the fact that nobody is asking to add value to it. So it is very important in our manifesto that we begin to address the issue of marketing made in Ghana, food that is grown in Ghana, and food that is processed in Ghana. Because without that, you will be doing all the production in the world, and nothing good will come out of it. The third thing also has to do with the very nature of our farming. We are small farmers. When you enter into any economic discussion, 2-acre, 2-hectare farmer versus a 1,000-hectare farmer exporting into Ghana, the discussion is over. Because you cannot stand the economies of scale that they bring to bear. Someone will export eggs to Ghana, and you cannot sell your eggs in Ghana. So the conversation that we also need to begin to have is how to help you to aggregate and consolidate when you come together as associations, so that facilities that the NDC has best and the NPP has shepherded, like Gesal. No, I'm serious. I mean, Gesal has not been destroyed, so I'm saying they've shepherded it. But one government starts, another government continues. But Gesal is still not doing for you what we fully wanted to do. So if you read our manifesto, one of the things we have said is that when it comes to you being able to access finance, we want to be able to put $500 million into the financial sector so that 80% of the risk that is associated with lending to you, and I can't remember who talked about it, whether it was the second speaker or the third speaker, but the risk that is associated with lending to you can be removed through the use of Gesal. So that small as you are, if you can use the power of your associations to aggregate and consolidate your farms, if not in the physical sense, but as an association, you can begin to better access finance. And not just that you can access finance, but we are saying in our manifesto that we want you to be able to access it at no more than 3% above what government borrows from the capital markets. So if you are in agriculture, you should not borrow. You should be able to borrow at the cheapest rates that exist in this country. Right at the start of the program, someone said it, no food, no elections, isn't it? So if we make food expensive, ultimately, we will not have a future. The other issue that I want to talk about really has to do with, I have a minute, and that's fine. I think I'll be okay. The other issue that I want to talk about has to do with our young people and our women. Half of all farmers are women. but they produce 70% of the food stock. When it comes to the logistics around agriculture, 85% of the people involved are women. And when it comes to processing food in this country, at all levels, 95% of the people involved are women. So one of the foundations in our manifesto is to have a mind shift that says that agriculture is not just about the production that takes place on the farm and how we can encourage you to produce more, but how we also recognize the value of agribusiness and the value chains that are associated with agribusiness, so that you who are involved in agriculture and agribusiness can thrive. Now that for me is more than creating a new ministry for women.
Okay.
Because so much of the agribusiness side of the conversation is dominated by women.
Very well.
Now, if we accept these as the new foundations for thinking about agriculture and thinking about agriculture as a business, I think that when you are a smallholder, the future is actually very bright. And some of the things that have made you have sleepless nights, you can begin to address with a lot more confidence.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harry. So we've heard from Harry, we've heard from Doc. Now we're going to hear, and this is mostly like the foundation, but we're going to hear what is contained in the manifesto that is being put to the people on December 7. And I'll ask them to speak to various themes. So we'll talk about drought. What does the manifesto hold for drought? Transportation of food crops, that's very essential. I'm thinking we should also have a conversation around storage. The one district, one warehouse was critical in the campaign. How has it succeeded? And how is the absence of these storage facilities affecting agriculture? Now, we'll talk about value addition and processing. I think that's very key for the farmer. We'll talk about farm inputs. You've mentioned that, Doc, in your submission. We'll talk about markets, readily available markets, and how you are planning to address this in your manifesto. We talk about local consumption and the issue of flooding. So I'm going to give you each a chance to, I think I should just let you, I should maybe restrict you. Local consumption is critical, we'll talk about that. But the issue of drought, what is your plan in your People's Manifesto to deal with drought?
One of the most important things we need to recognize is that Ghana is blessed with water. And if we manage that water resource very well, I think that we can minimize to a large extent, the impact of drought. Step one is irrigation. Currently, only 12% of cultivable land is under irrigation. In our manifesto, we've talked about increasing that, doubling that to 24%. Doubling that to 24%, not simply by going off to borrow, but introducing an essential ingredient, which is private partnership. We all know the pressure that today sits on the budget of Ghana when it comes to debt. But then at the same time, there is the issue of efficiency when you introduce private sector participation. So we want to double irrigation, or the scale of irrigation that is in Ghana, but to do so in very close partnership with the private sector. At the same time, we have to preserve the catchment areas that allow us to feed our water bodies. Now, we often have a policy conflict in this country between the extractive sector and the agric sector. When you prioritize the extractive sector, unduly, what you end up doing is that 5, 10, 15 years down the line, you will pay for that in the yields or the lack of yields that you see in agriculture. And we all have seen it in the Western region, haven't we? Mm-hmm. So there ought to be a better balance between how much we support the extractive sector and protect the future of agriculture. And the balance has not been right.
Thank you. Doc, droughts, what's the master plan to dealing with that natural phenomenon?
Well, thank you very much. It's a natural phenomenon, as you have indicated. Just that with the benefit of science, we can do some things that will mitigate. And afforestation is one of them. And the current government has that program in place, and trees are being planted in most parts of the country. Then we also increase our irrigable land so that we will not be practicing total, by the grace of God, agriculture, so that when it doesn't rain, we fold our arms and then we cannot do anything. So currently we are already expanding and rehabilitating Bong Left Bank irrigation. We are also expanding and rehabilitating Bong Right Bank. We have finished rehabilitating Tono irrigation, and it is left with automation. When it is automated, then they can sit at the office and even control water supply to various portions of the irrigation scheme. And that is where we will need some partnership with a private sector operator or operators to come and make sure that these schemes are sustainable. Because Tono, for instance, was constructed between 1975 and 1985, and because we didn't have such management in place, the scheme broke down, and we will have to find money and rehabilitate it. We are also thinking about the almighty Balwo multipurpose dam, which is targeted at 24,000 hectares. And that is almost twice what we have now as public irrigation land. And that is very, very significant. And that's why I say it's going to be a game changer. It is already envisaged that there's going to be sugar cultivation there, and there's also going to be tomato, all kinds of produce will be done there.
Closely connected to that for me is the supply of inputs. Should farm inputs be free? And what is your plan in your party manifesto?
Farm inputs in our party manifesto are not free, but we will continue with the subsidy. The subsidy has an objective. We are to use the subsidies to make sure that farmers increase their productivity, and some of them, when they get to a certain level, they can be weaned. For instance, our current subsidy program is for smallholder farmers. It's not for the big-time farmers. But because sometimes the administrative cost of even going around to identify who qualifies and who doesn't qualify, what we do is we say, beyond 2 hectares, you don't qualify. So when you come to buy the subsidized fertilizer, your limit is 2 hectares. If you are buying beyond 2 hectares, then you go commercial. So we will continue to do that. But when you get to a certain level, it's like you can be weaned off from your mother so that you don't suck the breast milk any longer.
There are allegations that a lot of these inputs are given to your party members. Again, the issue of smuggling.
Thank you, Umar. The first allegation, I think, is not well-founded, because if you look at the way we distribute our inputs, it is suppliers who bid, and then they supply, and they have their agents across the country. And if you were to do random checks, you will know that it is not partisan. I have a Moshi friend in Walewale. I know him. He's a very strong NDC. He's a very strong NDC. He's called Mumune. He's one of the distributors of fertilizer in Walewale. And I know him very well. But why will I prevent him? Because when it comes to food, there's no NDC MPP.
Okay.
So we don't do that. You are also talking about smuggling.
Yes.
Yes, that one is possible because you cannot find an ideal perfect system. And if you were to wait to get an ideal perfect system before you can operate, it's just like you farmers here and me, I'm also a farmer. If you want to have an ideal situation before you go and produce, then you can never produce. So whether we even support the farmers or not, they will farm. So if we are supporting them and there are hiccups here and there, we just try to work on them while we move along.
Okay, that's fine. Harry, what's the plan with farm inputs? What's your manifesto saying?
Well, let me say that in all of these things, there's no one size fits all. So one of the things that our manifesto talks about is that when it comes to women and young people, we will have special or enhanced support for them. And that means that they will have more subsidy directed towards them. We know the cultural and social disadvantages that women suffer. And agric is a very tough area for women. So we will have a priority of directing more subsidy towards women and youth. But at the end of the day, the principle is that agriculture is not a lifestyle. Agriculture is a business. And if we are going to really make agriculture a business that allows Ghanaians to thrive, then it is important that we also pursue the agenda of helping people who are in agriculture to have access to finance, to have access to mechanization, to have access to markets, to have access to value addition. All of these elements are articulated in our manifesto. For one thing, what we have said is that it should not be that in a priority agro-productive zone, you have to move more than 50 kilometers before you can get to an intermediate processor. So just as we have done spatial mapping for Northern Ghana, we should also do spatial mapping for Southern Ghana. And when we have done the spatial mapping for Southern Ghana, please, it's not just about inputs. If you cannot get a good road to even get to an intermediate processor, never mind all the inputs that are given to you for free, you will still have intolerable levels of losses. So we will make sure that we prioritize who gets the support in terms of inputs. Number two, we will make sure that all those support features, finance, mechanization, intermediate production, are all available to you within a very tight radius of just about 50 kilometers. But then at the same time, what we are also saying is that we must improve the level of entrepreneurship training that we give to our agriculture, farmer-based organizations. Because if we don't do that, they will only be fighting the battle of how do we get access to produce more, rather than how do we get to efficiently access markets and grow. Lastly, I beg of you, one of the things that has been missing for many years is TVET that is focused on agriculture. It's all right to have TVET general, but if agriculture is half of our people, and if agriculture value addition can correct itself from 18.5% to 60%, critical to that is the availability of technical knowledge at the level of the farmer and in the extension services that are available to the farmer. Now, these things have been missing for way too long. So if you read the NDC People's Manifesto, we talk about the fact of expanding TVET education. In fact, making it free.
Okay, that's fine.
Not not only making
You need to end.
Just bear
Yes,
with me,
you
because
need-
I think everybody is happy to hear.
Yes, everybody's
that there's
happy,
an
but-
investment coming
Yes,
in TV.
I'm going to bring in the next question so
let
that
me
you
try,
can.
Let me
no,
let me try and finish that.
No,
point.
Harry.
Let
What
me
we
try
need
and
to
finish
do,
that
what
point.
we need to do is that you need to stick to the rules so that we can have a better
No problem
conversation.
at all.
Yes, thank you. I'd want you, and don't put your microphone down. You can now come in and tell us what your plan with storage and transportation is.
I talked about PPP, introducing PPP in our agricultural supply chain, starting with irrigation. When in our manifesto, we're very clear that when it comes to storage, and let me focus on the grains side. Yes, we have built more warehouses. But one of the things that has hurt us very badly is the quality of the product that leaves the warehouses. So aflatoxins, mycotoxins, moisture levels, our ability to simply protect what the farmer has toiled to produce. Then you cannot find an intermediate processor who can accept it, because no major manufacturer, no brewery, no Nestle also now wants to take the corn and the grain that is, if you like, unfit for its production. And even when you put it on the open market, who wants to buy corn that is moldy and has had to be dried and redried and redried? So one of the things we are talking about is high quality modern storage facilities. You know, today we talk about ultra-modern. But you and I know that the grains we are storing have unnecessarily high levels of degradation. And we have to change the way we design and manage the storage facilities. But we also need to expand them, because part of the problem is the availability and the distance, the shortness of the distance to good storage. The second point you talked about after storage was transportation. We add, cocoa roads when we talk about investment in agriculture. And then we show a very high level of investment in agriculture. But the reality of the matter is that these roads are supposed to serve more purposes beyond just agriculture. The fundamental truth is that we need to focus on improving the network of rural roads so that the speed to good storage and the speed to market is accelerated and the distance is shortened radically. Right now what we have is a situation where products will sit, and by the time they get to market, they are not in the best shape. So there has to be a massive investment in roads. We began that process with what we term cocoa roads. That process was truncated, then it was reinitiated. But if you now read the manifesto, you have the $10 billion big push. And that whole agenda is about focusing on enlivening the rural economy with roads, with power, because remember, it's not just about roads, it's also about intermediate production. So you need all the utilities, you need roads, and you need to have good storage right around the priority production zones.
Okay.
So those are the things that we have stated that we are going to focus on.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Doc, so you tell us what your plan in your manifesto is for access, as in transportation and storage. I mean, you have the warehouses that you promised. I don't know how many of them you have.
We have the warehouses.
How many have you executed?
Pardon?
How many have you delivered?
About, I can't tell the exact figure, but more than half are completed.
More than half of
Yeah.
265.
No, 100. No. I'm talking of the 102 that are being.
So half of 102, so that's like
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
50 out of over 265 districts. How many districts do we have? 201?
Yes.
75? That's constituencies.
Yes, but that's
245.
Yeah, but that's just.
That's failure.
No, it's not failure.
50 out of
It's not.
245?
It's not. No, they are completed, but Others are ongoing.
In
and
4 years?
They may be completed next week. Because as I told you, when I went to Salaga, the contractor was prepared to hand over, but the consultant made some observations. That's why we couldn't take over. So he has to work on that, and he can do that within the next 1 week. We, the laymen, might not have even seen, but the consultant made observations. So we are on course, and my colleague just talked about modern warehouses. In fact, what we have built, they are really modern warehouses because there is a compartment for laboratory so that there will be equipment to test even the grains when you bring them, to be sure that they are of a certain quality before they can be stored. Because if the grain is below a certain moisture level and you store it, it might go bad. So we have an administrative block within the warehouse for the management of the warehouses. So the warehouses are really modern warehouses. When it comes to transportation.
So what I want with the warehouse thing and the
Yes.
transportation is that a lot of our districts are very vast.
Yes.
My district, the capital is at Dodowa, but the farmers are really at Dofo and Asuchari.
I understand you.
How do you move? So is it that you have a government plan where you move their produce for them
Let me tell you, it's not as if every district will have its warehouse located in the district capital. Some districts may choose to put the warehouses in areas where they think farmers would have the most accessibility to the warehouses. But generally, access roads is a problem, and it's a very big structural problem. But we are working on it. As I tell you now, in Damongo, there is one access road we've been working on for farmers under our SAPI project. In Myong, there is one that we've been working on. In Nanton, we've started working on one. In Savulugo, we've started working on one. In Tolon, we've started working on one. In Kumbungo, we've started working on one. In Bulsa South in the Upper East region, we've started working on one. In West Mampusi, we've started working on one. Gossip is also doing a number of access roads in the southern sector. And the Cocoa Board is also working on some roads in the southern sector. So we are working very hard. In actual fact, what my colleague is talking about, we are already doing them better. So I just want to urge all of you to pay attention and just hold that firm so that we cross to the next regime.
Okay, thank
we
you.
cross to the next level.
Okay.
And then we can perfect these things for us.
And
our one district, one factory is also ongoing in so many of these districts. We have them to process.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
To processing. So it's okay.
We'll get it.
It's okay.
All right. Thank you.
The big elephant in the market is what we are going to next. And I'm not referring to the MPP elephant. But the issue of importation, why import when we can produce? Harry, what's your plan with preventing the importation of food that we produce here? So I'm essentially touching on the subject of local consumption.
Let me say this. Ghana is not an island. So we cannot close our borders to importation. But what Ghana can and should do is to raise the competitiveness level of what we produce and add value to. That's the bottom line. Time was when Tom Brown was made in our homes, isn't it? Today, there are people who make Tom Brown and export it. It is good enough to enter the European market, the North American market, etc., etc. I'll give you a simple example. Roasted groundnuts and corn. It is a snack that every Ghanaian and West African loves, isn't it? We have not as yet found a way to package it, preserve it, and make it available to the whole world. These are not complex matters, but they require a focus on us deciding what is easy enough for us to do that will open access for us to the world markets. Those are the things that we talk about. So you read our manifesto and we say that 40% of what we produce, we want to add value to. Maybe that is not a 4-year target, but it is certainly a target worth pursuing. That is number one. We are also importing and not consuming what we produce simply because tastes have changed. Consumers are exposed, they watch international TV, they see products, and they are excited about it, and they want to buy those things. Today in Ghana, you have people offering substitutes for brands like Coca-Cola, Fanta, and Sprite when you go to our shops, isn't it? But what is lacking, what is the biggest hurdle for them is the ability to market to the level that the international brands would market. And by the way, these international brands are also local companies. So it's a fair competitive ground. But what we need to do is to say that when it is a local business with local owners, we need to do a little bit more to give them a push. So we need to understand where the consumer is going. We need to understand what is possible. And then the most crucial issue then becomes technology. Because you don't have access to technology. And that is why the standard of what you produce will never meet what the consumer has now become used to. So if as government, as NDC government, we say that we want to put money into the agribusiness value chain, that will allow Ghanaian businesses to have lower risk, go to the bank, invest in technology, go to the bank, import technology, attack the market, and have better marketing support. I think that that is the future.
Okay, thank you. Doc.
Thank you.
Consumption of local produce and prevention of importation.
I just wanted to draw from my colleague the issue of technology, and then I can, leap from there. When you talk of technology, then it means you also have to go back to training or school, and then how these trained people will impact the technology. In the past, only God knows years, we had a number of extension officers who completed school, and they couldn't be utilized by the government, even though the government spent money to train them. We have made a very significant attempt, and we have recruited 2,700 of them. Some of them are veterinary technical officers, some are veterinary officers, some are agricultural extension agents in general, and they are working. These are the people who will help the farmers to improve their productivity and also improve the quality of the products. Now, when we get these ones improved, then it means that we have to find a way of linking them up to the whole value chain. But the agricultural value chain begins from production. And if you don't produce, you can't even have anything to process or to sell. So that is why we are tackling this production issue very seriously. And we talked about importation, why we should import when we can produce. In actual fact, if you are a policy maker, it will be a wild goose chase if you want to say, because anything can be produced in Ghana, it shouldn't be imported. It will be a problem. You look at where you think you have the most comparative advantage, and then you can tackle and support these sectors so that we can grow over time to eliminate the imports. And that is what we are doing in the rice subsector.
Do we not have enough rice in Ghana that we produce?
We really don't have, from the records. We don't have enough rice. In actual fact, from what the records we have, we are the local consumption of rice surpasses the local production of rice by almost 50% from the records.
So we have to import to supplement.
So the
or to
imports come to
complement.
supplement.
Okay.
So, and if you look at other sub-Saharan African countries, they are all in this quagmire. It is Nigeria that made a conscious effort earlier than we have done,
Okay.
and they are making a lot of progress. But if you look at Nigeria, you look at Senegal, you look at other countries within the sub-region, Cote d'Ivoire, they are all struggling. And it's good that we woke up early in 2017. So Ghanaians, let's be serious so that for rice, we have valleys enough to be able to produce. But as you were saying, it's just not the production of the rice. If you produce the rice, and in fact, I used to advocate that they should cook only local rice in my house. But I came to realize that I was in the minority because the children and the women in the house, they didn't like it because they would spend a lot of time trying to get unwanted foreign materials from the rice. So unless we are able to address the whole value chain, and that is what we are trying to do with this one district, one factory. If you have very good extension agents with the rice farmers, they will produce the rice with the right quality. They bring it to the aggregators, and then they will also send it to the warehouse. And the warehouses are now springing up all over. Okay. In Nasia, there is a warehouse there, and they are building one in Walawale. And we have a lot of rice. Somebody said he's coming from Yagaba. There is Yagaba rice. Do you know that there's Yagaba rice? Yes, it's being processed in Nasia. They produce in Yagaba, and they bring it to Nasia, and it's processed. I have eaten some before. There's no foreign material in it. So we'll get there.
Okay.
Thank you.
In corroborating what you've just said, as a media house, Citi TV last year, we started the Eating of Local Rice campaign. And it caught on well with our audience. But when everybody then started ordering for local rice, they ran out of stock. And then it became a problem. So then people started calling us, we want local rice. And we were mute because the people who told us they were producing, I think Mr. Rabbit, Nana Rice, and all these people, they had run out of rice simply, and it became a difficulty for many people. So that's just a point that I think. And I see, since we have rice growers here, I believe maybe they can share with us what the problem is. Harry, you wanted to say something on that?
Yes. There was a chart that I gave you to show on rice. There's something very interesting that has happened to rice production. And these are government numbers, so I think we can all trust them. Between 2018 and 2019, there was a massive increase in the amount of land that was devoted to rice cultivation. 2018-2019, quite a significant jump in land devoted to rice cultivation. Averagely across Ghana, the new land that was devoted to rice cultivation delivered 31% more yield per hectare than the old land that was already under cultivation, which on the surface of it is wonderful news. The interesting thing is that in the Volta region, the increase in productivity on the new land was below the national average. Now the Volta is the mainstay. Then you have the northern region where it was negative. It was not just below the national average for the new land, it was actually negative. Then you have Upper East and you have Upper West. So we have potential to do a lot. I think you have to bring the chart a little further down. Scroll down. Anyway, I'll keep talking. But we see we have potential to feed the processes. But when the policy misses the fact that the hot spot, the biggest places where we should invest in even increasing the productivity more is Volta, Northern, Upper East. And we miss that, and they rather record below average growth and negative growth. We are not helping the future of rice production in Ghana. So Citi will go all around the country, promote Ghana rice, and then the policy and its implementation will undercut all that marketing work that you did. Because what you did was marketing work. And by the way, it was free marketing work for the rice sector. But the policy destroyed all the marketing work, and the policy destroyed all the effort in production. So we must have alignment. When we are implementing and someone is doing the marketing to promote made in Ghana and someone is responding by producing more, we must make sure that the policy doesn't undercut all those efforts. Okay. And oh, by the way, then there are the people who set up manufacturing facilities waiting for the rice, waiting for the corn, waiting for local produce. And look, tomato. There are factories in Upper East, factories in Brahafo waiting for tomato. And we just cannot sustainably supply them.
Very well.
Is it anybody's fault then that we import tomato?
Thank you. Let's get a policy fix, because as a media house, we had eggs on our face. And as if that's not worse, we had importation companies, or companies that import rice, withdrawing their commercial adverts with us because they said you are supporting local farmers. Okay, then we'll not advertise with you. And media houses, we thrive on advertisement. So it was really eggs on our face that the people we're supporting could not also match up. But of course, then there's a policy issue we talked about which has to be fixed. Let's go now to Patrick Stevenson. Patrick Stevenson has done some analysis on the two manifestos that were presented by the two political parties. Let's see what his analysis found. He's with the International Budget Partnership. So, Patrick, please tell us what International Budget Partnership is, then you can proceed and give us a quick analysis. I am told you'd have to do your presentation from the podium, yes. So let's welcome him with a round of applause.
I'm not going to take too long. I don't know why you are relieving the focal person. No, I'm not going to show anything. I mean, I'm just going to look at it. I'm not showing anything at all. No, you definitely need to talk. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to share a few insights on what we have seen, looking exactly a bit more detail at the manifestos of the two major political parties. I think that there are farmers here. And so the issues that border on the real farming issues, I'll probably leave them so that if the farmers have questions, they can put those across. But I think in the preliminary comments, so IBP is International Budget Partnership. My country manager, Abdul Karim, was here earlier, so I thought he probably spoke a lot about what we do. But essentially, we're an institution that supports budget organizations or community-based organizations that are supposed to, as it were, build up their agency for the purposes of demanding, public services that governments will provide. And the farmer groups typically fall within the institutions that we're currently supporting for the foregoing year. So we're excited to be here. So the preliminary comments will be some of the pointers that, were made by the two major political parties in terms of commitments that have been made to the sector. I heard that the fertilizer subsidy, for example, currently sits at 50%. And it is interesting when, our actors, particularly policy actors, usually make reference to the commitments and efforts in the sector. Usually the conversation is on the input side. We rarely hear what happens on the output side. Today, I think from a study that was conducted by sampling a few price points across the country, and this was in partnership with some other civil society organizations working in the space, we know that the cost of the bag of the 50 kg fertilizer, for example, sits around 120 Ghana cedis, 128 Ghana cedis, and the subsidized one sits about 84 Ghana cedis. That does not suggest that there's a 50% subsidy for farmers, even though the intent of the policy, or as we have seen in policy documents of government, suggests that. So maybe that's something that government will have to, or the MPP, Deputy Minister yourself, maybe you may have to put a bit of clarity on that, why that is the case. The other thing as well has to do with the commitments regarding the warehouses that have been built across the country. Indeed, the manifesto that we examined, particularly for the MPP, indicates that about 28 of these warehouses have been completed across the country, and there were 74 at various stages of completion. And so we thought that it would be very important to, listening to you, to put these out so maybe we can get a bit more clarity on them. But outside of that, I think the most important conversation regarding the manifestos and the agriculture sector will be the issue of financing. And I think that the presentation that, Charles made earlier alluded to that fact, that the investments that we have been making in the sector, given the expansion in government revenue, given the expansions we have seen in the size of the economy itself, that investment has been going down. So all the fine things that are contained in the manifesto, some of which you have elaborated extensively, I think are fine. But usually the part of the conversation that is missing is how we're financing it and what the financing strategy for government has seen. Because it is okay to have the intention of policy to say, well, we're going to expand access of inputs. We are going to bring a lot more women and young people into the conversation in terms of financing of agriculture. It's okay to say we shall use, Exim Bank, for example, to bankroll. In the case of the NDC, use Exim Bank to bankroll a lot of the activities we have in the agricultural sector. If we don't understand the financing mechanisms that these are going to come through, because it is also very risky if we don't know that. Then farmers or smallholder farmer groups will be demanding things that, from a fiscal policy point of view, at certain stages, the government is unable to provide them. And we have seen clear examples and clear cases of that. So that is one thing that maybe during your final round of engagement, you probably may want to touch on, so we have some level of clarity around that. Then the general feeling of the commitments we have seen in the two manifestos of the two major political parties, by and large, appears to recognize the constraints in the agricultural sector. What is worrying, if you look at what was shown earlier by the peasant farmers, and you examine the real constraints that they are confronted with today, it will appear that the policy commitments of the two major political parties do not directly address these constraints for them in a manner that is very responsive to their needs, okay? And I think it's something that we have to pay particular attention going forward, because if we should take, for example, the issue of inclusivity in the sector, and I know the NDC tried to bring a lot more young people in terms of the commitments in some parts of the commitments made. They talked about bringing women into the conversation, for example. But it is worrying if the inclusivity of women is around the cocoa sector alone, because there's a lot of women that you have in the other value chains. And the focus of the NDC manifesto was purely on cocoa farming women. And we think that is something that has got to be looked at. Outside of that, I think the NDC manifesto makes a very bold commitment. I talked about financing earlier. And the commitment was to improve or increase the financing in the agricultural sector from, I think you indicate about 7% to about 10%, which is a metric that I think the farmers in here can hold the government accountable. Because if you come into power, say in 2020, and 2021, in March, the government passes a fiscal economic management policy, and they go and check, and the commitment there is not 10%, okay? Then we know that whatever you said in the manifesto, you are not prepared to commit to that. However, what would have been interesting to see, okay, that investment being made, which of the components of government spending are we going to look? Because it's very worrying if that is going to go to compensation like we have seen in the times past. And in terms of goods and services and investment in infrastructure, that doesn't happen, because that is what really, really benefits the farmers. So I think that will be one of the things that maybe in the second round of the conversations, if we can get some clarity on that from Harry, so that the farmers seated here know exactly what to expect. In the case of the MPP and the government that is in power, of course, the usual expectation is that you're going to continue programs that are already running, from the quarters of government. So if you examine the manifesto thoroughly, I think that you find a lot of commitment to continuing programs that are in the sector, which I think is a good thing. And I think the NDC manifesto as well highlights the need to continue some programs in the sector that border on the issue of smallholder farmers. What is interesting in the case of the NPP manifesto is the need to re-examine a program like the Planting for Food and Jobs, re-examine Rearing for Food and Jobs, and see how you can retune it and make it better. The question is that in a very responsive manner that brings the farmers around the table? And I think it was one of the very important points that Charles pointed out, that for a very long time now, major conversations like this, smallholder farmers are not at the table. So if you're talking about re-engineering the policy or re-examining the policy to see the points of effectiveness or otherwise, what room exists in a much more sustainable manner for farmers to be at the table, okay? Then they can adequately contribute to the conversations around the sector. Then the very final comments that I'll make regarding the NPP manifesto is around the provision of subsidies that we've had. So either on the fertilizer side of things or on the other input regarding seeds. Here's what is worrying. It is one thing if there's a commitment to expand the amount of money that we are allocating to these inputs. Okay, it is one thing. And it's a completely different thing if the mechanism by which that is done is not one that is accountable enough, such that government is comfortable to say, I put in 300 million Ghana cedis to ensure that we get, say, 30,000 metric tons of fertilizer, which is supposed to give us this amount of output. It's a completely different thing, because currently what we understand is that farmers that want a fertilizer just have to show up. They have to show up with an ID card. But that's not happening. And so it is possible for unscrupulous individuals that want to abuse the system to almost get away with everything they want to. So you may sit at the ministry, you may sit in Accra, you may sit in a district office, hoping that the agents you're working with are getting things done. But in actual sense, it's not happening. What this may lead to is a case where we continually make significant investments in these input supplies. Farmers don't get value for them. So for somebody who probably may just be examining the effectiveness of government policy, may decide that, well, if we keep putting X amount of millions in there, we don't get a significant returns. Maybe it's time to look at, other ways by which you can support the agricultural sector without necessarily deploying these inputs. But the farmers equally need the inputs. Food security is one of the things that we must continually focus on. Finally, and in my opinion, what I think is one of the very important conversations for 2020 in particular, is because of COVID-19. And the feeling you get is that the economy has changed. A lot of value chains have been impacted. It would have been interesting to have seen from the NDC side, in terms of commitment to the sector, that recognizes the impact of COVID-19. However, it was not too clear how the sort of propositions and recovery strategy for the agricultural sector recognizes the constraints that COVID-19 had presented to the sector. So it'll be very important if we can get some clarity on that. However, I think the NPP manifesto highlighted a number of commitments around that, and the fact that it will be important to mainstream agricultural policy now. It shouldn't be difficult for us to run a sensitivity analysis on, say, the agricultural sector budget, health sector, and education sector, and then see that we have parallel investments that prioritize these sectors. But when you take education, for example, it is easy to see that this is something that the government is interested in. When you take agriculture, it's not so visible beyond the supply of inputs. And so I think that these will be some very important comments and observations made from the manifestos. And the final statement will be that going forward, we think that it will be important when the political parties put together these manifestos to be as consultative as possible. I know the NDC said, it is the People's Manifesto that was broad consultation across the country. But we think that a bit more consultation will be important. Beyond that broad consultation, it will also be very important if there are clear targets that the ordinary beneficiary of policies and programs can hold the government accountable to. I think that when we compare both manifestos, it is for 2020, the case of the NDC in terms of the promises they make give you something to hold them accountable to. And like I indicated, want to expand, investments in the sector. You talk about inclusion of women. You have some targets in there that if they come in and they don't, go according to these commitments they have made, you can hold them accountable to. It's not so clear in the case of the incumbent government. You can understand why. They are incumbent, and there's a need to continue government programs that are in the sector. Umaru, I'll round it up here.
Thank you so much, Patrick Stevenson. Thank you so much. Patrick, you've dropped your mask. What we're going to do now is to take questions and comments. I'll invite my panelists back and to the stage. And there's a microphone that's going to go around. So I'm going to take questions. I do recognize that we have various stakeholders and groups here gathered. What I would rather do is that if you catch my eye like they do in Parliament, I will call you. So, boss, just pick the other microphone. So let's go to just show me your hand if you want to ask a question or you have a comment. Yes. Let's start from the front. No, here. Yes, thank you so much. So you can introduce yourself, you ask your question or make your comment. Yes.
My name is Nana Kwawa.
Yes, I'm told you need to speak up, so if you could even stand up, it would be better for the cameras to capture you. Thank you.
My name is Nana Kwawa.
No, you don't need to come here. Just be at your...
Yeah.
Yes.
My name is Nana Kwawa. I was coming from Ghana Federation of Forest and Farm Producers. I'm a farmer myself, and I'm a cashew farmer. Some years back, mine will go to Anabo. 2 years ago, you talk about the tree crops board. 2 years ago, President came and a great cashew board in Wenchi. And then this year too, they have inaugurated the tree cross board, which while my colleague was talking said the actual farmers were not part of the board. Next month, cashew is going to be harvested, and we don't have the price yet. Farmers have no thing to plan how they are going to maybe recruit labor to harvest. So what is the board doing to come out with a fair price for the cashew farmers so that we can have a good plan?
Okay. Thank you so much. Please take the microphone here for me. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
I am Charles Ochre from the Department of Agricultural Economics and Agribusiness. I have 2 quick points. From the 2 manifestos, Mr. Yamson and Honorable Sagre, I want you to tell us particularly the unique things in each of your opponent's manifesto that you will likely adopt when you win in 2 weeks' time. Because it's always easy to criticize the other one.
Yes.
But have you identified any positive thing, Mr. Yamson in MPP's manifesto and Mr. Sagre in NDC's manifesto that you would like to implement when you win in 2 weeks' time?
That's a trap.
That is the first trap. And the second one, probably, I think we have spoken also about COVID-19, but we didn't link it to the macroeconomic framework and how it is also related to the policies or the promises that are being made. We all know that from next year, things are not going to go as usual. So probably the two parties can also help us how they will factor in, particularly the financing component that we all know is not going to be as business as usual.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Please take the microphone to the back. The gentleman in white. Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Andrew Stego, the Deputy General Secretary for the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAU. We want to associate ourselves with the presentations made by Charles, which is very deep, and we want the two political parties to tell us how far they are taking their presentations such that it doesn't become one of the talking points. But practically, what is the process from now to the next 2 weeks? How what Charles has said is going to reflect in your actions, and we want to hear that. The other one quickly is about generally the safety and health of farmers. Beyond farmers as production agents, their welfare and safety is also key. You know, agriculture by itself is the third most dangerous occupation according to the ILO, beyond mining and then road construction. So it's very dangerous. So what is the safety arrangements in the manifestos to ensure that farmers work and work safely? Beyond that, agriculture, like someone said, is business. And business people are workers. So farmers are workers. Like any other Ghanaian worker in the bank, the farmer's office is in the farm. Now, what are you going to do to ensure that what people in the formal world of work enjoy, farmers in the rural, in the village, can also wake up and go and say that I'm taking my pension, can also wake up and go straight and also say that I'm a proud farmer. Okay. So these are two key issues. And finally, on research. You mentioned research and you mentioned CSIR. Doc is here, so I won't talk about the academic institutions, but there's a problem there. But CSIR is the crop research, food research, animal research when you go to Dodowa Road. The land for animal research has been encroached to the extent that now they have no more cows to do any research. There is so much land grabbing. Anything research on agriculture is under attack at CSIR. What are you two going to do to ensure that CSIR will have their lands back to do the research needed for agriculture?
Thank you. Thank you. Let's
much.
limit ourselves to 2 questions. Please give the microphone to the man in the smoke. I'm taking, this is the 5th question.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
My name is Edwin Balfour, and I'm the Communications Director of Food Sovereignty Ghana. Listening to the two gentlemen, you wonder why we don't have one national vision for agriculture. The way agriculture is so important. Wonder why we keep swaying every 4 years when something as basic as food needs to have a national agenda and a plan with long-term thinking and the sustainability factor embedded into it. You see, we need to pay attention to the sustainability factor. How many years are we going to be able to continue doing agriculture the way we are doing, where the soil is being depleted, the fertility is being depleted, the loss of our biodiversity, because we don't want to look at the long-term needs to develop our comparative advantage and introduce agroecology. We seem to think that the peasant farmer is the lowest rank of farming, and if you are a big farmer with hectareage, then that is where the respect is needed. But I wish to remind you that 70% of the world's food is still grown by the small-scale farmer, and then the large-scale agriculture produces 30% of the food using 70% of the raw materials. My question to the two political parties, the issue of genetically modified organisms in our agriculture has been one that food sovereignty has been aligned with, and we've vehemently always opposed it. In fact, not only Food Sovereignty Ghana, the Christian Council of Ghana, the Ghana Muslim Mission, the Office of the Chief Imam, the Vegetarian Association of Ghana, the Rastafari Council of Ghana, GAU is here, the Peasant Farmers Association. I've just gone down a list of a great constituency of stakeholders, the Socialist Forum of Ghana. How is it that both governments seem to be going ahead with this agenda of genetically modified agriculture when these stakeholders are saying that we need to take a second look at this.
Okay.
And so I'm tasking both of them to answer this question. We just had our agriculture minister recently who came out by himself that Ghana doesn't need to go GMO. But if you look at the policy of the CSIR and Sagre, we seem to be going ahead. They've warned that they're looking for commercialization of the cowpea. We are thinking long term. Europe is developing agroecology and organic markets. Why don't we visionarily put our farmers in the position to get a higher premium for their products?
Thank you.
And also save the planet.
Thank you
very
so much. Thank you. Honorable, you are number one on the ballot, so answer first.
Thank you, Umar. I hope I captured the questions well. And let me start from the bottom. The agroecology question and GMOs. Agroecology is a very good method of production in agriculture, and we have not lost sight of it. The only challenge is that where we are as a nation, if you were to insist that we are only going to go that way and no other way, immediately we'll encounter serious food security challenges. So what we are doing is that we have some projects that are supporting people to also embark on that tangent. There are people who think they should only eat food that is produced through, the use of organic material to fertilize and all that. Such people can afford to do that. There are some people who, if you want to restrict them, they will even starve and die before the kind of sicknesses that you are thinking will come in the long term will come. They will die. Some children will suffer from malnutrition and they won't even grow beyond 5 years. So we have to be careful. These are ideals that we can pursue along some tangent. But the generality of our population, they need food. They need food. And these other fast methods will also have to be used to be able to make us food secure. If we are not food secure, there can even be a war, and there will not be peace in this country. And at the end of the day, we won't even have any time to think about agroecology or conservation or environment. That is the challenge. So I must be frank with you that we cannot strictly say we are adopting only this method. So we put them together, and those who want to make their choice, they make a choice. A national vision for agriculture. Yes, we have a very strong and well thought out institution according to our national constitution, the 1992 constitution, that established the National Development Planning Commission. The National Development Planning Commission can always provide a framework. But as we've always said, the way our constitution has stipulated our democracy, you are in power for 4 years, and people were already intimidating me here that if you do this or that, then we vote or we don't vote. There are some places when you are campaigning, you go to and they say no road, no vote. It doesn't mean they won't vote. It means they will vote against you. So, and the necessary condition is that you have to be able to at least respond to the pressing needs of people for them to be able to think along with you to focus on long term. So even if we have that national plan and yet you are in government, you must also make sure that you address the immediate needs of the people. And no one can run away from that fact. The CSIR lands, these are, CSIR is a sister, belongs to a sister ministry. They are the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, and they are under the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. So when they have a problem, they take it to their minister can take it to cabinet, or discuss with a sister agency, or whoever is a party. And so these issues, they have been raised and they are being addressed. Farmers' safety. In fact, we have a project that we hope will come on in 2021 when, by the grace of God, you people endorse my flag bearer. This project, when I led the technical team from my ministry to the Finance Committee of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, and we presented the project, then they also started asking intimidating questions like Umar Sanda, that why are you talking about COVID-19? Why have you allocated a budget to COVID-19? This is the work of the Ministry of Health, and you must not stray in there. And I said, no. It's just like gender. Now, when you are doing a plan or a policy, you have to mainstream gender. It's like disability. When you are doing anything, you have to mainstream it. So COVID-19 has also come until it goes, or we are able to develop an antidote. We have to continue to mainstream it. So we have a project that is taking off next year in 2021 by the grace of God, and we have mainstreamed COVID-19. Besides that, all our projects that are being implemented now, as soon as the whistle was blown that we are with COVID-19, all the projects have revised their notes and incorporated COVID-19. I think my meeting with farmers at Tono Irrigation Project, we did a lot of sensitization on COVID-19, and then we also donated PPEs. Then there is this question on the process to incorporate concerns of peasant farmers in the manifesto. I must be frank with you. The manifesto process started some time ago, and a committee was set up, and we have reached a point. I can't tell you here that we will incorporate the suggestions here. But what I have realized is that all these issues that you have raised, they are not watertight away from what we have as a framework in our manifesto. So what we can assure you is that a lot of these issues that we might have glossed over will be considered when we go into the implementation. But we will not go back to revise the manifesto to incorporate your ideas. I also shared something with the peasant farmers some 2 years ago, that our doors are open. If you come to the ministry and you don't find my minister, you can find me. If you have any ideas, bring them on board. Because the way the policy-making process is and the stressful nature of the job is not going to be easy to go and sit with almost all stakeholders. So if you also have some concerns, give us positive feedback. Then we can incorporate what you want us to incorporate. That is if it aligns with our philosophy and ideology. There was somebody who asked this friendly question: what have you identified in NDC manifesto that you can adopt? In actual fact, that decision will lie with the manifesto committee if they were doing a manifesto. But you already heard political parties accusing one another. They've stolen our idea. They've stolen our idea. You've heard these things before. So I am just telling you that we believe strongly that what we have put before Ghanaians is solid enough. It's solid enough. We believe strongly that it's not everything that we will have to do in agriculture to succeed. What we have to do is to address the significant factors. The significant factors. The professor is looking at me. When you do a regression and you look at the significant variables, there are some variables that are not too significant. So sometimes they may matter, but because of the limited resources, sometimes you have to focus to be able to make an impact. That is what we are doing. Then the last one had to do with cashew board and prices. This one I will check, and then we will revert to you, because I don't have the information offhand. So I will check that and then get back to you.
No,
I
but
hope
let me just be sure, for clarity, you are deputy in charge of livestock.
No, I'm deputy in charge of annual crops.
Annual crops, okay, that's fine. Harry, please, you can answer the questions that were directed at you. You can borrow his microphone.
That's already one thing I like about him. He shares.
You think he'll share the seats of the...
Well, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Let me first deal with the things that I like. You know, there's something that we've talked about, planting for food and jobs. And I always tell people that it has a genesis. The genesis is a funding that was secured by the last NDC administration and the Canadian government, and we left government.
They wanted to speak up.
Sorry. So I'm saying that one of the things I like, and that we would continue. Sorry, one of the things I like, and that we would seek to continue, has been termed by this government as planting for food and jobs. And I like it because the genesis is from an NDC policy, where we sought funding from the Canadian government to invest, and left that funding, $150 million worth, that this government was lucky enough to inherit, rename it, and launch it as Planting for Food and Jobs. There's absolutely nothing wrong in investing in our farmers, and particularly in our small farmers. As my big brother said, 70% of our food is grown by small farmers. So if we find money and they implement it, albeit as I showed you with rice, with some shaky results, it is nice for the original conceptors to come back and say, well done, you've tried your best, let me continue and do what I was originally going to do. So that's fine. You have rearing for food and jobs. We had a small ruminants program, which has now been called rearing for food and jobs. So, thank you for holding forth. We will come back and take our rearing for food and jobs and continue. Gesal, I talked about Gesal earlier, isn't it? We will come back and we will make sure that, as our manifesto says, we want to make sure that at least 50% of all farmers, and that would mean in the majority, small farmers, will be able to access insurance through Gesal. That will cover 80% of their borrowing risk. So we will come back and we will take over Gesal, and we will make sure that it serves the smallholder farmer. So those are things that exist. They existed before the government came into being. Thankfully, they are so useful that they have not been dispensed with, and we'll continue with them. Now, there's a question about COVID. And what I'll say is that if you take a good look at the NDC Manifesto, we have a section that deals with tax reliefs. And what we have said is that for industries in the rural economy, they will have up to 2 years of tax relief. And for businesses that are set up by young people, they will not be subject to tax at all. So our young people who want to go into agriculture can look forward to setting up, agriculture as a business, knowing that they will be exempt for up to 2 years. So these are things that we know that have come about as hardships that have come about as a result of COVID, that we're going to use fiscal policy to help to deal with. There's also the conversation about health and the safety of farmers. If you read our manifesto, we talked about free primary health care for all Ghanaians. But for cocoa farmers, we talked about free secondary health care and free tertiary health care. I dare say that with farmer-based organizations, with fisher folk who have landing, who are part of landing zone committees, it is not rocket science to find a sustainable way to extend that benefits to them. And again, to the point about pensions, we have begun the process of introducing farmer pensions in the cocoa sector. But it's also about how well the rest of the agricultural sector, we're able to organize the rest of the agricultural sector in partnership with the farmer-based organizations so that these benefits can be extended. Yes, I am a formal sector worker, and I know that when I'm 60, I will have a pension. There's nothing that says that a farmer should also not have a mechanism that allows them to enjoy a pension. We've begun it with cocoa sector. It is credible. It is possible. And I think that it's only a matter of time before we can extend it to serve all of the sector. There's also a question about a national vision for agriculture. And I think that for me, if there's one big thing that we should all agree, is that agriculture ought to be the center of all our national policy. Because that is what will drive the decision about where we take roads, where we take power, where we take schools, where we take technology, where we take education. Because this is where someone has said it, 60% of us are engaged. And half of them are women. And oh, by the way, remember that young people are 60% of this country. So women, young people, the rural folk, put it all together. Fully 2/3 of Ghana needs to have agriculture at the center so that they can begin to draw all the benefits of the national cake. So those things are also very, very important for us. Deputy Minister has talked about GMO and the fact that it's linked to security, it's linked to cost, preference. But one of the things that I would say is that we can also market our native, our local foods better. You know, a country like Mexico, and I think my brother has stepped out, they woke up one day and discovered that their maize, which they have developed various varieties of over the years, had been patented by a company. And Mexico had lost its right to the genetic code of maize. And these things cannot happen. So we also have to have a view and a strategy going forward that says that what is ours we must protect. The world is increasingly going to eat tropical food. You are aware of that. The world will increasingly eat tropical food. We have the most undeveloped agricultural land anywhere in the world. So what happens when you lose the patent for plantain? What happens when you lose the patent for cassava? So never mind grains that are imported. Think about what we have today and let's protect what we have. What is lost is lost. But what we have not yet lost, we must have a very clear strategy to protect it. And those are the things that I think we must continue to engage with farmer-based organizations, sector advocacy groups to ensure that we have a plan. We don't have all the answers as political parties, I dare say. A lot of the answers sit with you, and it is in the quality of the engagements that we can all serve Ghana better. So I would say that, look, one of the things that we like, and one of the things that we will encourage, is to have the smallholder farmers more actively engaged. It is not a battle. It is not a contest. It is really about finding a space that allows you to help us to build a better agricultural future for Ghana. Those are the points that I was able to
talk about the manifesto. Is there anything you want to borrow from if the form of another campaign crashes?
Oh, I've talked about it.
You've talked about there's something you pick from it.
I've said that we bequeathed to them.
So you just go back to it. Okay, that's fine.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it.
We'll go back to it.
He wanted to make a quick intervention. You don't want to give him the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't address the GMO issue directly.
I think you did. You did,
no,
but
no, I was I was talking about agroecology. With the GMO thing, the government hasn't got any policy to adopt GMO seeds in Ghana. The government hasn't got any policy to do that. If we had a policy adopting GMOs, then we would have been very far in our efforts to combat the armyworm completely. Because we were taken to a field in Brazil, and they had demonstrations. They had biological control methods for the fall armyworm. They had chemical control methods, and they also had GMO maize. And if you saw the GMO maize and you compare it to other control methods where fall armyworm was supposed to be present, you would just go for the GMO maize. The GMO maize is such that the fall armyworm cannot chew it. So they are safe. But as a country, because we have not adopted the policy to use GMOs, we have refused and we are battling with the fall armyworm. So we haven't actually adopted GMO. What the bill that was passed in Parliament is protecting the rights of researchers, breeders, that when a breeder is able, like if CSIR, they are able to come out with a variety, they should have a patent so that they are protected. And it's CSIR, it is not just the researchers. The patent rights, when any revenue accrue from it, some of it can be passed on to maybe some of the researchers. They can have a reward mechanism, but it doesn't mean that it's going to belong to those breeders. So it is our own country produce that we are talking about.
Thank you.
So when they produce their seeds, the breeders in the universities and the research institutions, then they should be patented. Otherwise, anybody in the world can take it and make money out of it. So that is the essence of that bill that has been passed in Parliament. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc. Let me take the next batch of 5, and if I have time, I'll take one more. So let's start from there.
Thank you very much. I can't stand.
Kindly stand up so that the cameras will capture you.
Okay, thank you very much. I had 2 questions to ask.
I wish you can take one. Just so choose between the two, the best amongst them. Yes.
Okay, Honorable Bambangi. I'm curious to know what kind of...
you haven't introduced yourself.
My name is Victoria Adongo, and I'm the Executive Director for Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana.
You're a big woman.
Honorable Bambangi knows me very well, and we have worked together, and we want to appreciate having worked with you.
It's difficult hearing you. Bring the microphone.
I said, I'm Victoria Adongo, and I'm the Executive Director for the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. I'm saying that you, Honorable Bambangi, you know me, and we've worked together, so it's only the Honorable NDC that I want to ask you, what kind of arrangement did you have with Burkina regarding the spillage of the Sagre Dam? Because there has been spillage all these 4 years you have been in power. The other question is, you didn't touch on farmers' access to credit, which is a...
Madam, just one question. Just one question. Thank you. Time is not... Forgive me. Boss, give it to Mr. President.
Thank you so much. There was a question as to whether we have enough rice. And when they were introducing this local rice, that we should eat local rice, people were calling for rice, and it is not there. So I want to say that for the local rice, we have it. We have produced enough rice that can feed this country. If you go, I don't know whether our politicians, they go out to visit the valleys where production of rice is being made. If they come back, they will testify that there are rice. And some of their colleagues, MPs, former MPs, we are all at the field farming rice. Some of them are doing 1,000 hectares of rice. And they will, when they are here, they will testify that there is rice in this country. What we are lacking is just that we are lacking support. As at now, there are rice in the farm which needed to be harvested. There is no combined harvesters to harvest them. And in going forward, if we don't take time, then bushfires will come and take them. To also add that sometimes people doesn't take us serious. They say that, oh, you are Accra farmers. It is not so. You see this lady who has spoken right now, my executive director, she has a farm. Her rice is there, it has not yet been harvested. Charles also have a farm. It has not been harvested. All our secretariat members here, everybody is farming. So I am not just saying it. If you want, you come. I think the TV stations, they knows where our farms are located. And some of them even know more than the politicians. But my conclusion to these, the two major parties, sometimes this time, we are friendly. Any party that wants the elections, when we come to talk, they say, oh, this party has made you to come and say this and that. We are saying that that is not what we are doing. Now that we have engaged you, we want to hear from you. All what you are telling us, 7th December, if God decides and the people also decide, the one who takes, don't forget that we are coming back to ask our debts from you.
Okay.
Because we have put in you where you want.
Fair reminder.
Also satisfy us.
Okay.
But that time when we come, then you say, because you are asking us this and that, it is this party who is influencing you. So we cannot influence ourselves unless somebody influences us. Such insults. So I'm pleading with them that whoever comes is our friend. We have to work together. Pay us our debts that you have promised us, and we'll all be in the same.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's a lady behind him. You raise your hand up, madam. Yes, you. Or you want to pass?
I'm Eva Osei from Ashama Irrigation, Peasant farmers. Please, I wanted to ask that why is it that everything you doctor has been saying is at the north? He did this at the north. He did this. What about the other regions? What have you done there, please?
Thank you. Thank you. So this will be our second question. This was a comment. So this is the third question. Yes.
Thank you. I'm Emmanuel Eifa. I work with San Ghana as the deputy.
Yeah, if you could just take off your.
No comfort.
Okay.
Let me just shout.
Okay, then
so I'm Emmanuel Eifa. I work with San Ghana as the deputy country director. Access to input, I heard both speaking about access to input, and I believe that it is very critical to our food security. Our research at San Ghana, in fact, yesterday I reviewed some current research report we are doing, and clearly it shows that women, smallholder farmers, especially women, are less likely to benefit or have access to most of these inputs. I heard the NDC person saying that when they come, they will prioritize women. I believe that we've heard the stories of prioritization for long. If you say we prioritize women, how? What exactly do you mean? So I want to put it to both the NDC and MPP that it's not about we've done this, we've done that. Tell us how you are going to prioritize women when it comes to access to inputs. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, sir. we looked a cursory look at the MPP.
Your name, sir?
My name is Willie Lati. I work with CICOD, the Center for Indigenous Knowledge and Organizational Development. The MPP manifesto, there's a bit about continued efforts in modernizing agriculture. So that's talking more about the agricultural mechanization centers. And then for the NDC, they also talk about develop the agro-productive zones and align appropriate infrastructure to facilitate agriculture and agribusiness using the PPP models. So basically, both of them are more around the commercialization. But the issue of food sovereignty is missing in both manifestos. We are talking about whether GMO or no GMO. The salient issue is that at the end of the day, somebody is dictating to you what seeds you should be planting. They are looking for uniform varieties, uniform seeds. And so that's talking about that. So we are talking about the issue of promoting a farmer's bill. A bill of farmers that promotes and protects the rights of smallholder farmers. The issue of women and also local market and environment. And that is what we think we should be promoting as a country.
Okay, thank you. Please bring the microphone here. I'll take, can I see those who have hands up? So yeah. Okay, that would be.
Me free Kokopa. Me de Peter Edu. Na masembisa eni. Koma two political parties. Manifesto ya omokenkan ye. Me hu ni se ye wono ma bi wo ho a emaku adwuma enye de. But mante ho asem. Ana ma hu ni ebe ya ebeboa ma emabunu de ho agiku adwuma. Ana akuafo ka ye bo eso bete. Ye ka emo asem, emo mpro. Ye store mo ne ade. But ye hwe nnuane bi de se bode banche. No so ye use o mem ha bebre. Akuafo tumi dobre bi wo ho na abu. Na asai kwa. Kobusia na akobo ya na adeko ye se adwuma na. Bisia no untumi ntua. Mante ho asem ankura bi kura tumi adan no mani. Waye powder ye de ye fufu ana ye de ye bibi. But no mante ho asem. Ti mesra o mo se o mo ndi sa de no ho dwuma. Se de be ya eno ma ye produce no ensei kwa na akuafo ye bre enye kwa. De etoso bio.
Da be yeah that's it. Yes. Okay. Who can translate me? Who understands good P? Or anyone here? Can do that. Okay. So okay, question.
I think the point he's making is that when it comes to those farmers who farm local foods like plantain and the rest of that, they have not heard enough about what we are going to do to ensure that they too can store and they too can protect the value of their harvests and will not be forced to sell the bumper crops in the main harvest, at cutthroat prices. I believe that's the point that he's making. Yeah. I've given myself a hard question. I can't believe it.
Thank you. This is the last question. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Goswe Asamoah, and I'm a member of the Ghana Association of Agricultural Economists. Later this year, we had our dialogue series, and we tried to champion agri-tech development in Ghana. So we've identified that digital innovations in agriculture are key in addressing the key challenges that we have identified in the agricultural value chain. However, the manifestos of the two parties have been a little quiet about how they seek to leverage on digital innovations to address these challenges. For instance, we realized that to increase youth participation women and youth participation in agricultural value chain, there's the need to increase investment in digital innovations. Also, when you look at the issue of the irrigation system, where the Honorable Minister said that there's a need for automation, we've seen that digital innovations come in there. And so, but they are quiet in their manifestos about how the plan that they have towards investing in the digital innovations part in their manifesto. So if you could clarify that for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there anybody who has a question? Because this will be the last round. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. The two politicians will answer the questions, and then we can conclude. I think since we started with number one, it's only fair. Maybe you never know. Maybe JM may come back. So let me start with number two.
Inshallah. Okay, so I think the question about the battery dam has to do with current policy and agreement, so I'll leave that to my colleague, Deputy Minister, to address. I'll speak to the issue about sufficient rice production. I do not doubt for 1 minute that we have a lot of rice, and I showed you a graph about all the work that is being done that has actually increased rice yields on the new lands that were cropped by 1%. So there is rice. What is lacking, and I agree with you, is the harvesting support, number one. Number two, it is the support that will then mill that rice and make it acceptable to, your urban consumer, even to export. There's no reason why we cannot be exporting brown rice. It's healthy, but there is nothing that enables us to develop a market beyond Accra for our local rice. To that end, what I will say is that it is true that in our manifesto we have said that we will increase the expenditure on agriculture from 7% to 10%. But let me say something. That 7% includes a lot of expenditure that is directly and exclusively related to agriculture. Stripped out, and we're currently spending only around 3.3%. Strip out cocoa roads, which are not taxpayer investments, but they are cocoa sector, financing that goes back. It's just about 3.3. So when the NDC says we will spend 10%, it's not a minuscule 3% we are thinking of adding. It's in real sense. So it's a very, very bold statement that we have made in our manifesto. And like you said, you can hold us to it because we clearly understood the inflated number and the real number when we were writing 10%. Let me also talk a little bit about the focus on the north, because that was Madame's question. Everything is about what is happening in the north and not what is happening in the south. I would dare say that we have been able to give that much focus, partly because of the spatial planning work that has been done in the north that has helped us to put more emphasis on the priority crop areas in the north. The task that is now left, and which I believe should be done with great urgency, is spatial planning for the south. So that we can better direct resources also to the south. And then the conversation will not just be about this north, we've done that in the north, but we will also understand the full potential and how to direct agri-sector resources to help smallholder farmers in southern Ghana as well. And I think the biggest areas of focus, as always, will be how we help you mechanize, how we help you improve storage, and how we attach to your efforts more value addition. There was also a question about prioritizing women and what specifically we will do. In our manifesto, we talk about helping them with seedlings, helping them with extension support, and helping them with finance. So I think that what is important is to understand where the finance is going. The finance is going into making it easier to access insurance so that you can access bank financing. So women in agriculture now need to exploit that route. Because at the end of the day, remember, agriculture is not a lifestyle, it's a business. So, and women understand business, and they know how to use small amounts of capital to build exceptionally large businesses. So what we're saying is that we will de-risk agriculture for women so that you will have the opportunity to actually build viable businesses. So read the manifesto and understand it well, and when you are voting, understand that you are voting so you can access more attractive insurance and capital. Then there's a point about food sovereignty. My brother, what I will say is that at the end of the day, if we invest in technology, and if we invest in your productivity and the scale of agriculture, even though the base is small farms, but if we can find ways to build scale around the small farms, it is possible for us to preserve our indigenous foods and actually grow them. It is possible. I had the good fortune to live in South Africa, and I came across a tea product called rooibos. Rooibos is, like we have lemongrass tea. Today, it is an international product. It is doing extremely well. Major brands want it, but it is a local South African product. There's nothing that says that we too cannot identify indigenous foods with global potential and make them part of our export base and make them significant contributors to our GDP and our contribution to global food culture. There's nothing that stops us. But we have to do the work of identifying the potential and actually bring it. That is the issue. We don't need to see technology always as a risk. It is what you don't control and what you don't understand that creates the problem. And those are the areas where we need to work hard to address. There was a last question about local food crops and what we're doing to ensure. And Chief, that's your question. Hello, Chief. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. You asked the question about, and maybe I should speak Chi. Should I speak Chi? Should I speak Chi? Okay. You asked the question about what we're doing to ensure that those smallholders who grow local food products would also have more security in terms of their harvest and their incomes and their profits. Now, one of the things that is happening, and Minister will attest to this, is that there's tremendous opportunity that has opened up for ECOWAS trade and the Africa free trade area. And what we need to do is to find ways to help the export potential for your local produce. We are in Ghana and we import oranges from Cote d'Ivoire. We import plantain from Cote d'Ivoire. But who says that we can't export plantain to Mali or Niger? So we need to do that work. And part of it is actually getting the support that helps you to understand where the opportunities exist so that you can tap into it. Right now, you are on your own. And I always say that we have allowed the small farmer to farm only using his own weights, sheer determination. There's the technical support that says that here is market opportunity. Here is where you can add a little technology and you can actually get in. Those things have not happened. But now, if you read the NDC manifesto, we are saying that we will so that you can have security and security in your profits when you go into local food crop production, because it's all about and market access that is backed by global technology.
Thank you. Please give the microphone to him. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you. I will address from the top. Spillage of Sagre Dam. I think when I was doing my presentation, I highlighted that because of that spillage, in the last rainy season, there was some desilting of some of the tributaries of the two voltas. Besides that, there have been some collaboration with Burkina Faso, and they keep updating us spilling the dam. There is an interministerial committee made up of the Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, the Minister for Food and Agriculture, and the Minister for Interior, as well as the Minister of Defense. They are all involved in that, and they give updates when they are going to spill the dam. And that is what NADMO uses to guide them to sensitize the communities. Otherwise, our loss to human life would have been much higher than what we have been getting. But we also want to solve this problem once and for all. That's why we have embarked on the almighty Bolgo multipurpose dam construction. If it is done, then we harvest the water and control it at our will. And then one of my friends who talked about digitization, we will make sure that we digitize even the use of the water. Because we are doing that at Tono, and we are doing that at Bank. We are doing that at Bong Right Bank. So my sister who talked about, who came from Ashama and said I was talking about the north, I think I've talked about the south as well. Because I've been a village boy all my life in the village. And apart from university and the fact that I was frequenting in Accra. So the southern sector, I didn't know many of the places. So, but in Ashama, I have come to Dawenya, where we have greenhouse villages there. And I even have a friend who is called Kujo. He's my classmate from elementary school. He's from Volta region, and he's a rice farmer there, a very good friend. So, and we go to Togome, and then Umanda village, we go there too. We have, that is Asuchari. We go there too. I went to Asuchari. Even if not because of this program, I would have been there. I would have gone there and passed through to Akosombo.
That's where we have the Pong Irrigation.
That's where we have the Pong. The Pong Rai Bank is at Asuchari.
No. It's not
and
Pong, it's Pong. There's Pong.
Well,
Pong.
okay, thank you for the correction.
Pong
You see the manifestations of. So that is it, my sister. Farmers' access to credit. That is the Ghana Incentive Risk-Based Sharing for Agricultural Lending. GESL. That is the tool that we want to use to address a lot of the financing handicap, the financing problems of farmers. We are also working at the macro level to make sure that the general interest rate comes down so that some farmers, when they go to Agricultural Development Bank or other banks to take loans, then the loans will be more, the interest rates will be more friendly. Somebody also talked about the absence of combined harvesters. It's true that we have done quite much at the land preparation level. But when it comes to harvesting, we still have to do a lot. because harvesting, just like land preparation, has to be done in a timely manner. And before I came to this program, I was in the campaign trail in my constituency, and most of the communities that you visit, you can't get the people unless in the night, because everybody is struggling to get the produce home before the bushfires come, or before some animals trample on them, or before somebody does something else to them. So we know that it is a problem, and that is our next challenge. We have to try and address that. But we have some harvesters, but they are not big harvesters. They are simple handheld harvesters that are at the agric engineering department near the airport that farmers can buy at subsidized. Subsidy is 40%. Then they can buy, and then they can use it to help. But they also involve a lot of labor. Their usage involves a lot of labor. But there is some equipment there. If you come closer, then I can introduce you to our engineers, and then they can guide you. Then we also have another person asking about access to inputs by women. I think the way we are going about our programs, it is not too difficult for the women to access them. The way we are going about our programs. In actual fact, some people advocate strongly and even fought us that the way we were doing PFJ, we should have identified farmer-based organization leaders and passed the inputs through them. But we realized that when you are going to do this, if you are not careful, you will even fall into the partisan lane. Before you realize, they will say, oh, this leader is NDC or MPP. But if the thing is in the open market, and the person who is selling is interested in his cash, he wants money, so you come and buy and take your produce away, your inputs away. So the way we have done it is not a hindrance to anybody. So I think that we have enough room for women to participate, except that in the agricultural value chain, there are more women at the other levels of the chain than the production point, because a lot of the women are better skilled to deal with aggregation, to deal with processing, and then to deal with marketing. But when it comes to going to the farm to do the production, some are involved, but if you do the research and collect the data, you will see that more men are involved at the production level, at the farm level. So that doesn't mean that the women are marginalized. They are only doing what they can do best. Then we have this issue of modernizing agriculture and then as against food sovereignty. Ghana is a democratic country, and the MPP in particular is quite a liberal party. We believe in the initiative of private people and individuals, and we value your contributions. So if you, as a farmer, think that this is the way I want my produce to go, you are free to go about it. I share boundary with my elder brother, my direct elder brother, in the village farm. I use certified seed. He doesn't use certified seed. He uses his own local seed. And there's no quarrel about it. There's no quarrel about it. Sometimes I get some certified seed that even disappoint me. But his seed mostly doesn't disappoint him. So this is also a message to our seed growers. We will have to continue to tighten the knots, because some of the seed growers, they don't present the best of seed. One of the presentations already alluded to that. Some of the seed sellers do not present the best of seed. They may even tell you these are the characteristics of the seed. Then when you go and plant it, the characteristics are different. So it also has to do with morality. We have, as a country, to improve upon our morals. You don't have to claim what you don't have. And that is what some people are doing. Then there's my friend who spoke in Chi, talked about the cassava and plantain that get their produce spoiled. It is true. And I understand that the warehouses that we are putting up now are for grains. But for these people, we have to find a way out. And my minister has always suggested that we kind of find some simple processing equipment for such produce like plantain or cassava that a farmer can easily just use at the farm level. And elsewhere is done in Asia and Latin America, that they can just process on the farm if they don't want to sell, and keep it for, better options later. So I think that
Yes.
I have.
You have so exhausted it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think we should give our politicians a round of applause. Thank you so much, Dr. Bambangi and Harry Yamson. Please, you can resume your seats now. Thank you so much. We're really happy that you joined us. It enlightened us, and now it has given us an opportunity to decide whether it will be former for Nana or JM. And thank you. We have really seen what you both have, and thank you. We need to end. Quick announcements, but before the announcement, let me invite Victoria Dongo. She's the executive director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. She's going to give us the closing remarks and the way forward after today. Madam, if you could kindly join us up here, I'll be grateful.
Thank you very much. I think we need to give our politicians another round of applause. Thank you very much for the opportunity to give my closing remarks. Very short. I'll start by quoting my colleague, Charles Nyaba, from the presentation he made. This is what he said: high cost of input, poor planting materials. You plant, you can't harvest. You harvest, you can't store. You store, you can't get market. Meanwhile, you suffer post-harvest loss along this way. This summarizes the constraints of smallholder farmers. And it does not apply to any particular party at any given time. It's all along. It has always been there. And we are looking for solutions. The fact that the two political parties are here and they've accepted this invitation to tell us what they would do for us if they won is a clear indication that they appreciate the problem and are ready to solve the best they can. For now and in going forward, we cannot say much, but only to wish both parties well. However, please note that we'll be waiting for the party that will be given the opportunity to carry out the mandate to smallholder farmers. Peasant Farmers Association will be ready to work with whoever is given the mantle to govern and to make farming bearable for smallholder farmers. We'll be calling on you. May I use this opportunity once again to thank you and then to call for a peaceful elections and wish both parties all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And on that very wonderful note, a note that sounds like a threat, I wish to say we have come to the end of this program. It's been great having all of you. We are going to have a quick group photograph here, and then we'll go for lunch. There's a